So there's a new video out of Donald Trump violently attacking and murdering journalists. Now, this is a fan video. Trump didn't make it himself, obviously, but it was shown at one of his events, and it's a PAC that supports Donald Trump that showed it at his resort in Doral. Sarah Huckabee Sanders was there. Donald Trump Jr. Was there. When I say there, at the event. And Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, was there at this event. So this is a major political event for Donald Trump and his supporters. They show a video, which we'll show to you live tonight, 6 to 9 o'clock Eastern, obviously, when the show is live at TYT.com. We'll show you only snippets of it, and obviously it's relevant to their attacks against us and the other media. So a lot of the media are shown there as being murdered by Donald Trump, including the Young Turks. So we're in a unique situation here because we're shown both doing violence and receiving violence. The others are mainly shown just getting killed. In the video, as you'll see tonight on the main show, for whatever insane reason, this supporter has us shooting Joe Biden in the back of the head, which is already abhorrent enough. If all the video showed was that, it would be beyond outrageous. And we on the left abhor violence, and I've said it about 1,000 times on the show, maybe literally more, about what we do is political, and it's a battle of ideas, and it's a battle in politics within this context of democracy and our Constitution. Anyone who does violence is, by definition, not part of the progressive movement, which believes in civil disobedience, etc. So now, in this case, it has nothing to do with us. We certainly didn't commit it, and we certainly didn't do the video. But the video shows us doing violence first, and then Trump stabs us in the throat or wherever he did and murders us. So now, if this is the only video that had ever come out of Trump doing violence and was just accidentally shown at one event, and that was the only context for it, well then, it might be a different story. And the MAGA guys are always saying, haha, it's a joke when we murder you. Well, it wasn't a joke when Cesar Sayoc sent pipe bombs to most of the people in those videos. It wasn't a joke when he threatened one of our hosts. It wasn't a joke when his supporters punched and attacked and assaulted protesters at his events, and he encouraged them, and he said, I'll pay your legal bills if you assault them, if you attack them, if you hurt them. And so we've now seen countless violence by right-wing extremists. Look, the rest of the media gets attacked and then, politely points out that it's horrible, etc. It's not just that. It's stochastic terrorism. It's meant to terrorize us. And here's something that people don't understand. Look, a lot of people work at the Young Turks, not just the hosts. So why do all the people that work there have to be subjected to this form of terrorism? Hey, is a rabid Trump supporter going to commit violence against us at any moment? Are they going to find our homes, our offices, etc.? And are they going to murder us? Well, a lot of people don't want to put up with that. And so that actually causes real trouble at the companies that we all run. And it's not fair to ask people to put up with that. And it's on purpose. The Trump side constantly threatens violence, constantly. I mean, you're seeing a very vivid example of it in this video that's out now. But if you go online and you look at our comments on Twitter, on YouTube, on Facebook, everywhere, constant death threats. Anytime we say anything that is against the Trump administration, against Republicans, against conservatives, their retort is violence, violence, violence. We're going to come and find you guys and we're going to murder you guys. So that is a form of terrorism. Look, it's in essence, and I don't mean any offense by this, and I'll give it context right now. It is in essence burning a cross on our lawn. It's a threat. It's a warning that is physical and that shows, no, there's going to be real consequences. And if you don't listen to us now, if you're not terrorized by us and don't submit to us now and bow your head and never fight back politically or in any other way, next comes murder. And it's not next. They already sent pipe bombs to almost everyone in that video. And every piece of domestic terrorism last year where someone died was committed by a right-wing extremist. That's according to the Anti-Defamation League. The FBI admits that the majority of domestic terrorism is by right-wing extremists. We have Trump supporters who have already committed violence and been encouraged to do so. We have a Trump supporter who threatened to kill almost everybody in that video. Within this context, it is burning across to say we're going to do it. We're going to do it. So you shouldn't be surprised, not when someone tries to do it. Someone already tried to do it, right? But unfortunately, when someone succeeds. So, look, they did it to African Americans in this country for hundreds of years. Not during just slavery, but the reason the KKK would throw bricks through your window, would plant bombs, would burn the crosses, was not just to kill African Americans in the country. It was actually, the burning of the cross, as an example, was meant to terrorize them. It was a form of terrorism. And they did it to say, don't ever fight for your rights, don't ever fight back. Otherwise, as you see in the other instances where we tried to kill you and actually did kill you, that'll happen next to you and your family and to your loved ones. And now here we are again. Look, that was worse, obviously, because there was lynching after lynching after lynching. That was far worse. And so I want to give it a context of nothing is going to be as bad as that. And it did. It terrorized millions of Americans, and it took away their rights, etc. But it was fascism. It was terrorism. And again, in that case, it was the right wing in America. Back then, they actually knew how shameful it was, and they would wear a hood to protect their identity. Because even in the worst form of discrimination and hatred in America, they at least had the sense to cover their faces in shame. Not anymore. Now they do public videos, and they brag about the violence that they would commit. Now it's against a much smaller subset of people, and it's not based on our race or ethnicity, etc. It's based on the fact that we're in the media, and in their view, have the temerity to criticize the president. And these are I'm going to try to keep the adjectives to a minimum, but these are the people who claim that they believe in the United States Constitution. The First Amendment says freedom of speech, freedom of the press. The press is the only occupation even mentioned in the Constitution. But when they do their racist attacks, the right wing says freedom of speech. When we actually hold the president accountable, they say, no, freedom of speech is not applicable anymore. We are going to threaten to murder you. And so, let alone attacking freedom of the press. These people don't believe in the United States Constitution. These right-wing zealots are deeply un-American. They don't believe in the concepts of freedom, including freedom of speech and freedom of the press, guaranteed by our Constitution, and that is the core of America. And it is not an accident. They mean to terrorize us by doing these very, very violent videos where they attack and murder members of the press. They show, in this case, Trump doing it, obviously, in the doctored images. So I don't know what else to do other than call it unacceptable. Everybody calls it unacceptable, and we're just supposed to sit here and take it. I know that there's law enforcement in this country. I know Trump says you shouldn't work with law enforcement. He thinks it might be illegal. Maybe he should make it illegal to work with law enforcement. That's because he's a lifelong criminal and a thug. And that's why it's not surprising that he's encouraged his supporters to be thugs, and they are thugs. That's exactly how fascism starts, by threatening violence, carrying out some violence, terrorizing everyone else into submission and obedience. Well, we are not going to do that. We are not ever going to give in to that. And yes, law enforcement in this country has to do their job. They have to root out not all right-wingers, of course not. That's 25 to 40% of this country. Okay, but the right-wing extremists, absolutely. Anyone threatening violence should be investigated by local law enforcement, by the FBI, by anything it takes to make sure that they do not commit violence. This is not ideological. Do not investigate them for their politics. But if they are planning or threatening or discussing violence, yes, of course law enforcement should look into it. And so the same people who tell us that to respect law enforcement when they do things that are unjust will now tell us, no, you should never do law enforcement when it comes to the right-wing extremists and their threats of violence. No, you're supposed to use law enforcement for justice and to actually protect the citizens. And in this case, it's not just the citizens, it's the whole idea of the country that we have to protect. If we allow this violence and threats of violence to spiral out of control, then one side will get to intimidate the other side in a way that is deeply undemocratic and deeply un-American. All of us should unite to make sure that never, ever happens in this country. And it's happening right now. And instead of cowering, we have to do the exact opposite. We have to fight back aggressively, politically, with civil disobedience, with ideological battles, and with insistence that we actually have law enforcement do its job in this country and protect everyone equally.